Wrapping up this series called More Than a Paycheck. We've been talking about the theology of work, but we cannot talk about work without talking about rest. So today we are going to talk about the Sabbath. I remember my time in college. I tried to have all my assignments done early enough that I could have another student proofread them for me. I always on the go. No time for rest. One of my friends who worked at the college often wanted to hang out during the weekend. But I did not have time for that, even on the weekend. I told him, man, I don't even have time to rest. I believe I had a good reason why I did not have time to hang out with him. Then he told me, Sammy, you will always have time. I often got mad when he said that. What I did not know was everything in life has a rhythm. Our bodies have a rhythm. Our hearts have a rhythm. Music has a rhythm. God has a rhythm. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 1 to 3, we see the rhythm God used to create the world. It says this, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God finished his work that he had done. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. God says, follow my example. Remember my rhythm. Work 6 days, and on that seventh day, rest. Beat the drum hard for 6 beats, then rest. On the seventh day, God rested from all his work, not because he was tired. He simply rested because the work was complete. God purposely gave you a rhythm to follow. Right there in Genesis chapter 2, the concept of Sabbath began. So too, the rhythm of life began. God knows you cannot function without rest. When the nation of Israel was in Egypt in slavery, they worked 24/7 with no time to rest. But after God delivered them, they were under new leadership, new master, a master that would remind them again of the rhythm of life. In Exodus chapter 20, God gave Moses the 10 commandments. The first 4 commandments were about a vertical relationship, a relationship between God and people. The other 6 commandments were a horizontal relationship between people. They are rules that shows his people how they should treat their neighbors. The 4th commandment, which is a part of the vertical relationship, God said this, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter or your male servant or your female servant or your livestock or the sojourner who is within your gate. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the 7th day and made it holy. To remember the Sabbath is not to have a lazy day 1 day a week. Rather, it is to focus on doing specific things that will draw us closer to God, to rest, to worship, to learn, study, care, and strengthen our spirit. In Exodus 20, God requires his people to remember the Sabbath. Remembrance isn't passive. Biblical remembrance requires action. In Exodus chapter 2, verse 24 and chapter 6, verse 5, God remembers Israel in their slavery in Egypt. There too, remembering means more than just recalling that the Israelites are slaves. It means delivering them from Egypt. So biblical remembrance requires action. Likewise, by remembering the Sabbath, the Israelites are supposed to act in a certain way. They are supposed to keep the Sabbath day and make it holy. To keep it holy means to consecrate it or to set it apart as holy. So it may be expressed as dedicated to God or belonging to God. So our Sabbath should look different than the other 6 days of the week. Sabbath is meant for our good. In the Jewish faith, keeping the Sabbath was a big deal. Jewish scholars debated about this for years. They were more concerned about how it looked that they obeyed the law. Then Jesus came to earth. He launched his public ministry on the Sabbath. Not only did his entrance into the world not meet the expectations of some of the religious leaders, But he completely disrupted their Sabbath rules. Because the reason God gave us the Sabbath is for our own benefit. It is a gift from God for us to participate in. God gave us an entire day to rest and to enjoy the world that he created. Jesus says this in Mark chapter 2, verse 27. Sabbath was made for men and not man for the Sabbath. By now, you might wonder, do I need to keep the Sabbath? Isn't it an Old Testament thing? Listen, it is absolutely necessary. You are busier than ever and you spend more time navigating your hectic schedules. So rest is essential for you to live healthy, strong lives. Whether you believe you should observe the Sabbath or not, God created the Sabbath for you and there is purpose in it. Rest looks different for everybody. My wife Leah reminds me mostly every evening, Sammy, it's time to take a break. Maybe you're like me. You find it hard to sit and do nothing. Even if you think you don't need as much physical rest and you strongly dislike being inactive, but mentally and emotionally, you need a break. Choose a day to stop doing the things that occupy your work days and participate in activities that nurture peace, worship, relationships, celebration, and thankfulness. Take a day to unplug yourself from listening or watching the news or social media. Be intentional. Make the choice to unplug from anything that causes you to stay connected to what has drained you for 6 days. So Sabbath is a form of worship and trust. The purpose of Sabbath is to steer clear of the distractions in our life so you can rest in God and experience God's grace in a new way. When you choose to take a day off to refuel and to focus on God, you are declaring that God is your provider. He will take care of your business. Therefore, you can rest. The concept of keeping the Sabbath really comes down to a trust issue. We either trust ourselves to handle our lives or we trust God. If we choose to trust ourselves, chances are good that we'll end up working ourselves to tear exhaustions. But if we choose to trust God, the one who goes before us, comfort us, and strengthen us, we'll see more progress in a healthy 6 days of work than a depleted 7-day work week. When we practice Sabbath rest, we acknowledge that our life is not defined only by work or productivity. We acknowledge that God is on the throne, that this world is his world, that our time is his gift to us. It is big picture time, and the big picture is not me, my family, my country, or my world. The big picture is God. Part of making Sabbath a regular part of our life, of our work life, is to acknowledge that God is at the center of our life. To observe it, you must dare to trust God to provide for all your needs rather than working all out to provide for yourselves. Listen, this can be very difficult, both for those who struggle with the prospect of not having enough and for those who struggle with the peril of not recognizing what is enough. Learning to trust God for your provision is an ongoing challenge, particularly if you are prone to compulsive work habits. Gordon MacDonald, a pastor and a writer, observes this of his culture. The more we want, the more revenue we must produce to get it. The more revenue we must produce, the longer and harder we have to work. So we build larger homes, buy more cars, take on added financial burdens, and then find ourselves having to work harder to pay for it all. More work, less rest. The rhythm of Sabbath keeping will protect you from burning out. Often great ideas that can rejuvenate your life, your business, come from a day of rest. You rest not because you are lazy, but because you are a hard worker. We set aside one day for the rest that only comes when you cease working and allow God to refuel you and give you a deep rest in your bodies, minds, and souls. Maybe you're thinking, Sammy, I cannot take a day off from work. I cannot put my cell phone down for a minute because that means losing clients and losing money. Accept it or not, if you don't choose to take a break, your body will take a break for you. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. Her weeks are super busy, taking care of the kids during the day and pursuing her passion for painting during the evening. But in my house, every Sunday, we have some rules. No laundry, no dishes. And after lunch, we nap from 1 to 3. That is our rhythm for our Sabbath. What is your rhythm is going to be like? I challenge you to take a day to unplug from all the activities that drained you throughout the week. Sabbath is not staying home and doing nothing, rather choosing to do something different. For instance, to go for a long walk, read the book you always wanted to read, or choose to close your eyes and meditate on the goodness of God in your life. How will you celebrate the Sabbath this week?